This is episode 16 of Blazing Geeks. I'm Nick.
And I'm Rob.
And, yeah, we're broadcasting it on Monday or Tuesday, but...
Tuesday.
But...
Come on, it's DVD Tuesday, Nick.
Yeah, but we had complications, but, but we're back. Anyway, this is, our first, DVD review. Today came out, Justice League New Frontier.
Mm-hmm.
And initial thought, it was really good. It was good. It was much better than Superman Doomsday, which is like a disappointment.
Spot on with their characters. There was the right tonal depth. There was the right emotion, conveyed through. The casting was outstanding. No complaints whatsoever with the voices, or the sound effects, or the music. All the audio was excellent. And it was matched with some very stylistic visuals that matched Darwin Cook very well, and no complaints.
It really was like the period piece,
right,
captured the spirit.
Of course, the story was very good too.
Yeah, of the DC timeline of the Justice Society. Oh yeah, spoilers are in this.
Oh yeah, before we start.
Our spoilers.
If you want us to go non-spoiler right now, before we start to get into details, I just want to say pick this up. This is a must-buy.
Must-buy, yeah.
If you actually, speaking of buy, if you go to Best Buy, they actually have a deal where you'll get the 2-disc set and a limited edition Green Lantern figure for $20. So it's really worth it to go out and grab that. Yeah. But go pick it up. If you're any sort of fan of comics or DC or animation, you're gonna love it. And I guess that's the end of our non-spoiler section. Now entering into spoilers.
As I was saying, it's pretty much the DC timeline of the Justice. Basically, the Justice Society came first, and then when the movie starts, they retired, and pretty much the remaining heroes of that group, like Superman, Wonder Woman, are off in China, and Superman addresses this to Wonder Woman,
Well, they're all off in different corners of the world doing independent work.
But it's set in the period of the Kennedy era, where Vietnam or
the Korean War.
The Korean War, yeah.
And the time when JFK was president, entering into quote unquote the new frontier. It's a time where superheroes aren't readily accepted by the government, which has undertones of sort of like The Incredibles meets several other similar storylines, but it's done well. It's right after the disbanding of the Justice Society, and those heroes, like Batman, still operate in a vigilante status. It's an interesting time. It's a time when the heroes are trying to redefine themselves for a new age.
Well, as we were talking about Batman, man, his voice was awesome.
His voice was deep to the point of scary.
Yeah.
Which is perfect for Batman. The style of the costume, more towards the original Bob Kane style, is awesome.
It starts off with him being the dark, brooding, the original Bob Kane, in the original costume, and
being the detective, fighting a cult. It's so cool.
An intense scene.
It was great because it felt so much like this was a pulp comic universe. It was fun to be there. It was fun seeing detectives and noir and cults and dark gritty city and detective. The whole sleuthing and gritty behind the scenes, and then using your powers and elements of horror and science fiction, and it was fun to see. That was kind of a fresh take, but it was actually an older take of what the DC universe used to be like. Which I wouldn't mind if they continued this in some sort of Elseworlds, because I enjoyed this version more than I enjoyed the regular one, honestly.
I like the regular DC universe.
Yeah, I like this where this one's set in, that noir 30s, where John Jones is.
That he still is that character in the modern. As the detective.
I think that in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, it was not the same John Jones.
No, it wasn't.
New Frontier, and I prefer the New Frontier one. Yeah. Honestly, I think that is a much better vibe to me.
Yeah, because, the character Martian Manhunter is, a mix between film noir and sci-fi. So.
Right, and he was more accessible as a character in New Frontier. I kind of sympathize with him more.
You mean in this movie as opposed to the DCAU? Right?
Yes. I think the DCAU, they could have done better, honestly, after I've seen this other interpretation. But I'm not knocking it. I love them both. I'm just saying I really like this interpretation of John Jones.
Lucy Lawless did a good job as Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I knew she would though.
Yeah.
She knows all about being an Amazon. I also liked, and they picked this up on the special features, how she was taller than Superman.
Yeah.
Amazons are almost like giants, like giantesses.
Well, in the DCAU in Justice League, she was kind of a bit taller than everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. I like the kind of
her stature,
powerful woman stature.
Yeah.
Very cool. And she had an attitude to match, you know? That was very in the way
Which,
of an eye for an eye.
Well, why don't you talk about the, what was going on in China? In China,
I think it was Korea.
Well, Korea.
Or maybe it was China.
Well,
I'm not certain of the countries, and I apologize for that. But yeah, she pretty much gave women the means to kill their enemies.
Yeah.
Without doing it herself, and therefore staying out of it. But
yeah,
also
Superman,
at the same time
knowing
knowing
that you just sat there and let them do it, like.
Right, and Darwin Cook discusses this better than we ever could about the processes that each character goes through, which is why I recommend the 2 discs, and I recommend you go and really check out these special features because he explains how he wanted Superman to be more of a man of the establishment, and then discovered that doesn't always work.
As opposed to Frank Miller's version, where he was basically a tool of the government.
Right. Well, this one's more of a free-thinking one that realizes, that's not always the way to be, is completely blind loyal. And then this interpretation of Wonder Woman is kind of like a more, I don't want to say rebellious, because she loves and she lives and breathes America, but she doesn't understand where it's going. Yeah. And of course, all these themes harken to now.
Well, Supes addressed this to Lois, on the Daily Planet. She's an Amazon, but she still learned to be an American, something like that.
Right. So I mean, it was interesting to see all the
yeah, Lois was kind of like that Robin Williams character in Good Morning Vietnam, where she reported overseas to the troops and stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when Hal Jordan was in the pilot. Yeah, and pretty much this story was pretty much the central character was pretty much Hal Jordan.
Right, and not Green Lantern, like Hal Jordan, which is very interesting. I actually liked it a lot. I like seeing the test pilot. And the government guy, and then how he kind of became, more. Though if I was gonna have any sort of complaint, it might be that the Abin Sur thing was Abin Sur was a little out of the blue. All of a sudden, he was taken out of a couch and flung across the desert. But it was a very small grave. Let me point that out. I mean, I still thought the whole storyline was great, and I love that scene with Abin Sur. Yeah. That was really great. I mean, the whole thing was good. I'm just saying, I was just watching, and all of a sudden I was like, "Oh, what the hell? He's getting torn up."
They probably should have established it earlier,
Well, I mean, you really had no idea if you didn't know how Jordan was.
Kind of come out of left field. They had to get him to be Green Lantern at some point, but even afterwards, he still didn't use the ring until the end.
I thought that was good, but if you didn't know that Hal Jordan was the Green Lantern, that would have come out of left field for you. But then again, who's gonna watch this that doesn't know that? Yeah. So I'm gonna say that's a forgivable thing. I'm just saying it was a little odd. Oh, it tore him out of the thing.
On the subject of Batman, that I forgot to point out here. After him and John Jones stop the occultists, he scares the shit out of the kid. And John's back off, you're scaring the kid. Right. And then later on in the film, he changes his outfit.
A little bit.
Was it the 1960s version?
Mm-hmm. And he takes on Robin as a partner. Which is nice because this really
more meaning.
Yeah, exactly, Nick. It's really more meaningful, and it takes on a whole new approach as to why all of a sudden this very dark, brooding character took on a child as a ward. Yeah. And lightened up a little bit because. And Batman said it best of all, because I want to scare criminals, not kids.
That's more meaningful to it than what happened in real life. When Congress, after the whole thing with the seduction of the innocent, that caused comics to, that hurt the comics industry, and then everything became all peachy and childish.
Right, very lighthearted.
Yeah, very lighthearted. So.
But I think that's a negative response. But I think that in New Frontier they kind of balanced it nicely.
They balanced it out.
He was still intimidating.
He was still the dark and brooding character. He was just.
But he wasn't so dark and mysterious that the people he was helping couldn't realize.